Oh, hey there. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in, I guess. Nobody does that. Well, anyhow, often I get asked, Matty, can we get copies of the loan docs before we go into signing? And my answer until now has always been no. But say hush to my new series I call Let's Play Lender, as we unfurl the mystery of the mortgage business. Now, can that be done? Not exactly. But don't worry, Matty has always got your back. Okay, let's fast forward to the very end. You've written your contract, you've completed your home inspection, everything's a go, you've secured your mortgage, you're clear to close, removed any type of financing contingency. Heck, you've even purchased your curtains and your couches, and it's all over. But the shouting. And by shouting, I mean the loan signing. The very last step before you become happy homeowner. And you can feel unsure. That's natural. Shout out GM. Closing day will be a very busy time, and there will be a lot to sign and pay attention to. But in this series, we're going to focus in on the core docs that you really need to pay attention to, which are the note, the mortgage or deed of trust, and the closing disclosure, the CD. Today, we're going to discuss the note with an actual copy from Freddie Mac's own website. And for gits and shiggles, we're going to play banker by mad-libbing our terms. This way, when you get there, you feel comfortable with it, you know what to expect, and everything rolls downhill. Now, if you've ever completed a loan signing before, you understand what it's like to be at home plate with the sellers, the settlement agent, the realtors, everybody's there breathing down your neck while you sign this mountain of paperwork so they can move on to the good stuff, the keys, the champagne, the checks. Matty, do you have the checks? At best, your loan officer attends closing and is there to help you explain exactly what you're getting yourself into. And maybe at worst, they still attend, but sit there in the corner like a plant. I did plenty of that because sometimes the signing is a delegated duty for the attorney or the escrow agent, and I'm not here to throw any shade at plants. At minimum, you get the cliff notes of what you're signing, and you're always encouraged to read through the entirety of the documents on a sleepless night. Like, who does that? So, what's the note? The note, it's a legal document that serves as evidence of the debt, and it's the promise to repay the loan held against real estate. And what it contains is a summary of the terms and conditions, the amount borrowed, the interest rate, the repayment schedule, and any other specifics agreed upon between you're the borrower, the mortgagor, and the note holder, the mortgagee. Next to the settlement statement, this is the most critical doc to any real estate transaction since it establishes the obligations of both parties and serves as a lien against the property until it's fully repaid. So if you want to follow along with the same note, here is the URL so you can get yourself one. Odds are you're likely going to sign a note that looks exactly like this one. It's boilerplate template, meaning that it's going to be used by most lenders, banks, brokers alike. So no one is here to throw out any terms or conditions that wouldn't be on your neighbor's mortgage or the mortgage that you just paid off or the one that you're about to receive. See, the government is the likely investor. Fannie, Freddie, they're the majority of the production behind the mortgage business today. So if you want to cut to the chase, look for this stamp at the bottom. See it here? Multi-state fixed rate note. Identified as Form 3200 as shown here. So this is a tell that your lender is using standard operating procedures in completing just the specifics on your mortgage with your note. So whether you're in Pennsylvania or Michigan or Indiana or Wisconsin or Nevada, you're all going to sign the same document. See, it's multi-state. Now, this particular note, taken into consideration, it's from 2021, and they will be revised from time to time. But the common denominator of any note, hey, you pay, you can stay. and what they refer to the note as the IOU. Remember that classic scene in Dumb and Dumber? Better hold on to this one. Well, here's a closer look at the jargon, and let's just break it down by each individual section. Follow me. Number one, well, this describes the amount that you're borrowing, and for our fake loan, let's use 100,000 as the principal sum. So this is the amount that you, as the borrower, promised to pay back. The principal amount plus interest. Now, all of the payments, they need to be in U.S. currency in a format that's acceptable to the lender. The second part, section 1, is that the lender may transfer the note. Servicing transfers, well, they're common, and they can happen actually several times during the lifespan of a mortgage. And they occur for various reasons. Performance, the value or servicing value of the paper, economic conditions, and sometimes even regulatory reasons. Now, if and when servicing is transferred, the loan servicers are required to send out the official goodbye and hello letters from the current new lender, respectively. Televising here who the new servicer is going to be. And regardless, all the conditions, these terms and conditions in the note will be unchanged. So if that happens once, great, or 100 times, whatever the terms and conditions, they're going to be the same. So no reason to be anxious about your servicing being transferred. Number 2, this confirms the interest rate you're being charged. And again, for our fake note, let's use current market rate of 7%. And this is going to be the yearly interest rate. Be aware that the rate applies equally before and after default. There's no reference to the APR in the note document. That's left for a different conversation. It's going to be on your loan estimate and your closing disclosure. And those are different rates. As the APR, remember, that represents the cost of the loan, and again, a different discussion. And during the application, when you lock the rate, you're locking in your note rate. So don't be concerned with the APR here. That's the point. It's a never function of the monthly payment. Speaking of section 3, which is all about payment. The first part is the time and place of payments, which again are monthly. This note commences on said date, and let's just, we're going to use June 1st of 2024. Each month thereafter, you're going to make the payment until you've paid off the principal and the interest. However, payments will be applied interest first before any principal. Then it identifies the termination date, and it's a 30-year note, so let's make it 30 years from now, May of 2054. So if there's anything still old, ultimately it's due by the maturity date. So part B, here's the monthly payment, and in USD, 7% interest and 100,000 as the borrowing amount. What did you come up with at home? I have 665.30, and that's per month. So this is just the mortgage payment itself, the principal and interest, right? The P&I payment doesn't include the taxes, doesn't include the insurance, any HOA dues that are due on top of that. They may be included in the payment, they may not be. But according to the note, just principal and interest. Fourth section. It's important you always have the right to prepay. And this is what it states. You always have the right to make payments of principal anytime before the due date. And this would include adding any extra payment monthly, but also if you decided to refinance, sell the property, you win the lottery, or for any of all those reasons you decide to get rid of this mortgage early, you're not penalized to do so. Also, some folks like that biweekly payment schedule, which is a cool trick to save off 15 to 20% of the term. Consider you can't designate application of prepayment until you've made the monthly payment first. Now, once all your interest is paid and the monies will then go to reduce the principal amount. And you don't get full credit for partial prepayment. You pay interest, in other words, going forward, it's not in reverse. 5, This identifies the loan charges that are subject to applicable law, and if the interest or the charges associated with the loan exceed limits, then it's safe to expect that your charges will be reduced. Moreover, any sums already collected that are over the line, they're going to be refunded, and the note holder can pay you back in a number of ways, an adjustment to the principal, or they can return the money to you direct. And any refunds, they're considered prepayment. So far, so good. Well, what happens when you miss payment or you can't pay? Well, let's go into section 6. If you fail to pay, well, first, what do you expect? Expect late charges. If the full payment isn't directly received at the end of the grace period, and let's make ours the customary 15th calendar day. Pay past then, well, then you're assessed a late charge. And let's input for the 5% late payment fee. And that's based on the payment. Now, you can only be assessed a late fee once per pay period. So they can't ding you 1% per day until paid. It's not how it works. Part B, if you don't make the full payment, you're in default. And that's what we mean when you become delinquent. Now, if you pay on the 16th of the month, that's not optimal, but it's better than being 30 days late, where that will report on your credit report. Sometimes there's some confusion here. Hey, I made my payment late, and you ask, hey, do you have any mortgage lates? Well, if you pay past the grace period, you're going to be assessed the penalty, but that's different than being 30 days late. So if all that happens, it's life. Get the payment in as soon as possible, and hopefully before the end of the month, so that it's just a late fee and there aren't any credit ramifications. Section C, all default notices, well, they're going to be in writing, and if you're not paid by a certain period, they can call the note due, meaning that the stakes are higher than just the monthly payment. The note holder has the right to call the entire balance due. And when it does, it's not next day, but they give you a 30-day grace period after the official notice. But in DE here, if they don't call the note due, they still maintain the right. And they can use this call feature in the future. So if you don't make payment and they don't call it, it doesn't mean that they bypass this altogether. They can elect to chase you down here for the full repayment of the entire balance. And when they do so, well, all those costs for attorneys and late fees and all that stuff, that's to be paid by you. Next, number 7, giving notices. They're all going to be by mail, first class, at the property address you provided. And if you do decide to change, the onus is on you to tell them and to do it promptly. And it looks like in 2021, in this version, this permits email unless there's law that requires otherwise. So you and the note holder can agree to e-communication if at first done in writing. Next, number 8, obligations. Simply stated, who's responsible for payment? Any and all that sign it. Anyone, as it says right here, anyone that signs a note fully and personally required to pay back the funds. So this would imply, hey, if 2 people signed, that full amount isn't split 50-50. The payment isn't split 50-50, meaning that if the husband pays and the wife doesn't, that one half is keeping up with the bargain. No, you're both entirely responsible. So if you have 2 people, you're both responsible for 100% repayment. Or if you got 4 people, doesn't matter. It's not split up 4 ways. Every one of those parties is responsible for the full payment. Now, the note holder, they don't care who makes the payment as long as the payment's made. It's done full and timely. 9, waivers. Now, this goes into presentment and notice of dishonor. And this is a process to provide the party responsible for the payment an opportunity to rectify the situation and make payment. It also preserves the rights of the note holder of this instrument in the case further legal actions necessary like a lawsuit for non-payment. And this specific requirements or procedures for presentment and notice of dishonor may vary depending on laws and regulations of your particular state. 10, it's uniform secured note. The rules of this note and the security instrument protect the note holder. All of this is written in obvious. It's written in favor of the lender, not the borrower. And that also includes if any or part of this property or interest in the property is sold or transferred without the lender's prior consent, they may call the note due. Referencing here this acceleration clause, often we see this in requests with clients that wish to transfer the title to an LLC post-closing. Note holders, they don't appreciate this, and they may choose to go after you and have you fork up the money in that 30-day requirement if they choose to do so. And they may pursue legal action, which, of course, who pays that? You do. So what do you think? There's the note. It's simple. It's in black and white. And while it's not that every note are going to follow these exact terms verbatim, they will have the same structure, the same provisions, and you should be able to follow the same patterns and or theme. Now, it's interesting here that these docs will evolve, in this one with email provisions as a recognized form of communication. And since the pandemic of 2020, we've seen lenders shift from an all-paper closing to a hybrid closing or e-closing. And although this certainly cuts down on the paperwork and the time to complete the closing process, docs, like the note, for now, require pen and paper to make it official, as usually required by the state or by the county. And last, expect to sign multiple copies of this document. Maybe there's one for you, one for the lender, one for the county, where an official pen and ink signature is required on these documents. So until that day, which again may not be that far away, and we go completely paperless, expect to have a signing appointment physically where you can go in and sign all these documents now like a boss because you're better prepared. That's all for now. Thanks for viewing this episode of Let's Play Lender. And never forget, Matty has always got your back. See you next time.